For your starter today, I'd like you to solve these two pairs of simultaneous equations. For the first pair, solve by making the coefficient of either the x or the y term the same and adding or subtracting using SSS or DDD. And for the second pair, solve by substituting one equation into the other. Pause the video now, have a go at these, don't spend any more than 10 minutes and then come back and check your answers. So those are the answers that you should have got. For the first one, x is 4, y is -3. The second one, x is 1, y is 3. So for further maths GCSE only, you need to be able to solve simultaneous equations with 3 unknowns. If we have 3 unknowns, we need 3 equations. We follow the same processes and the same idea as we do for 2 simultaneous equations, but obviously there are more steps and it's a little bit longer. So the idea is, in the first step, we pick one pair of equations and we combine them to eliminate one of the 3 unknowns, either by adding and subtracting or by the substitution method. We then want to eliminate the same unknown, the same letter, from another pair of equations, again by SSS or DDD or by substitution. What we're left with at this stage is a pair of simultaneous equations with only 2 letters in them. So we solve those in the usual way for 2 simultaneous equations with 2 letters, as you've just done in the starter, and that will give us 2 of the unknowns. We then substitute these 2 unknowns that we found into one of the original equations to find the third unknown. So we're just going to go through one example because they are quite long. So here we have 3 simultaneous equations. The first thing we're going to do is number them so we can refer to the numbers. So we've got 1, 2 and 3. So I'm going to pick one pair of equations. So I'm going to start with equation 1 and I want to eliminate one of the letters, either x, y or z. So I'm going to need to do some multiplying in order to do this. So if I take equation 1 and I multiply it by 4, that's going to give me 12x plus 8y minus 12z equals minus 52. If I take equation 2 and multiply it by 3, I'm going to get 6x minus 9y plus 12z equals 72. So now I've made the coefficient of the z term the same, it's both 12. I can see that I can use DDD because I've got different signs in front of the 12. So I can use DDD, I can add these 2 equations and that will eliminate the z term. So adding, I'm going to get 18x minus y equals 20. So try to line up with your column addition, the x's and the y's and the number. I'm now going to call this equation 4. So that's my step 1 done. So step 2, I'm going to pick another pair of equations and again I'm going to eliminate the z. So this time I'm going to take my equation 3 and I'm going to multiply it by 2. So that's going to give me 8x minus 10y plus 4z equals 44. And I'm going to take equation 2 and I'm going to take that as it is. I've got 2x minus 3y plus 4z equals 24. So again I've got the coefficients of the z term the same because that's what I want to eliminate, because that's what I eliminated in step 1. This time I've got the same signs in front of the 4, so I'm going to use SSS and subtract the equations, which gives me 6x minus 7y. Don't forget it's minus 10 minus minus 3, so that gives me minus 10 plus 3, which is minus 7y, equals 20. And that I'm going to call equation 5. So I've now got 2 equations with just 2 unknowns in. So I've got my, let's try and find the highlighter. Seems to have frozen up for a minute and doesn't want to find the highlighter. Let's just give it a moment. The whole thing's frozen. Ah, there we go, unfrozen. So I've got my equation for 18x minus y. There we go, 18x minus y equals 20, and 6x minus 7y also equals 20 for my equation 4 and my equation 5. So I'm going to have to turn the page now. So I'm going to turn the page over and I'm going to solve those equations to find x and y. So let's just remind ourselves of what we had. So now we're on step 3, and I had 18x minus y equals 20. That was my equation 4. And I also had 6x minus 7y equals 20. That was my equation 5. So my equation 5, if I multiply my equation 5 by 3, that's going to give me my x coefficients the same. So I'm going to have, let's just write out equation 4 again. That's my equation 4. And then equation 5 times 3, I'm going to have 18x minus 21y equals 60. I've got the same sign in front of my x terms, so I'm going to use SSS again, same sign, subtract. Subtract the equation, again I need to be careful, minus y minus 21y. So I've got minus y plus 21y, which gives me 20y equals minus 40. So y equals minus 2. Okay, so now I'm going to substitute y equals minus 2 into equation 4. I could have picked equation 4 or equation 5, but let's use equation 4. So I've got 18x minus 2 equals 20. So I get 18x equals 18. So x equals 1. So I've now found 2 of my 3 unknowns. So my final step is going to be to find the third unknown, to find the z. So now we're on to step 4. So let's just remind ourselves we found that x equals 1 and y equals minus 2. So for step 4, I'm going to substitute those into, so I need to go back to one of the original equations. It doesn't matter which one I use, so let's use equation 1. So let's just remind ourselves equation 1 was 3x plus 2y minus 3z equals minus 13. So substituting in, I'm going to have 3 times 1 plus 2 times minus 2 minus 3z equals minus 13. So if I simplify all of that, I get minus 3z equals minus 12, so z equals 4. So my solutions are x equals 1, y equals minus 2, and z equals 4. So you can see with these ones that throughout we've used the adding and subtracting method to eliminate unknowns, the SSS and DDD. And the reason that we did that was because the way that the equations were presented to us, if we just go back and have a look, originally the way the equations are presented to us, we can see that the x terms are lined up, the y terms are lined up, the z terms are lined up, all on one side of the equals, and the other side of the equals we've got the numbers. So it's set up for elimination. If the equations aren't set out nicely like this, you could rearrange them so that they're set out like this, but you should also be able to eliminate variables using substitution. So what I'd actually like you to do, I'd like you to go to the PDF, which is a copy of the AQA Further Maths textbook, and I want you just to have a look at, a read through example 4.37, which is on page 116. So that's the second example on the document. The first example on the document is actually the one we've just been through. So look at the second example, that's a substitution example, see how they're doing that. And then I also want you to have a look at example 4.38, which is an example of problem solving with simultaneous equations in 3 unknowns. And then I want you to have a go at exercise 4K.